We've waited till 2 o'clock, the official start time, so hopefully nobody comes in late. This is our first speaker event of 2026, and I know it's the start of a whole bunch of really great events that Janet organizes. She's away right now, so I'm standing in for her. I'd like to just thank a few people before we start. Ray McDonald, on behalf of the Kimberley Community Association, they graciously provide this great venue for us, and Ray does the setup and takedown, and we're very appreciative of that. We also want to acknowledge Maggie Muragami from the Grey Highlands Library right over here. She provides the projector, and she also tapes the speaker and puts it on the cultural channel of the library. And I think I just want to have a quick reminder. January is PROBUS Renewal Month. January 31st is the big day, and you don't want to go past that day. There's a lot of problems if we do. I'm speaking from the administrative side here. It's a big problem when we have to do things manually and not let Wild Apricot do it for us. So we really appreciate you doing it by January 31st. Thomas Huff is going to introduce our speaker.
Good afternoon. As you can see, I'm not Janet. Janet is lucky enough to be off in the British Virgin Islands right now, while we sit up here and shiver and shake. It is my privilege to introduce a friend of mine since I was in high school. Bob and I went through Western University together in the 70s, and since that time I've had the opportunity to watch Bob from a distance and see all the ups and downs that we all go through in each of our lives. Bob has had his fair share of challenges, yet he has come through all the challenges and built himself an amazing life by embracing what most people do not want to face, their own mental health. Bob was diagnosed with Tourette's at age 22. His Tourette's comes with a triad of ADD, OCD, and everybody's favorite, anxiety. Bob in recent years has developed No Magic Bullet, which includes a 5 Monday Moments weekly email featuring 5 different subject areas. I'm going to recommend that you sign up for this because it's free on Mondays. It starts your week off right, and there are 5 different areas to be able to give yourself an uplift through the week. For the past 2 to 3 years, our Canadian society is now starting to pay more attention to mental health and what we need to do to care for ourselves and families. I now turn this over to Bob to educate us on a number of the tools we need in our toolbox to craft our lives into healthy individuals. Bob, hit it.
Oh, welcome to the No Magic Bullet. Oh, welcome to the No Magic Bullet. We talk honestly about mental health, and we like to be fun and happy. Since I'm the first speaker of the year, I thought we'd start off with a little bit of fun, because that's one of the tools for No Magic Bullet. If you can have fun, you don't have time to be depressed. So, Tom, thank you for that lovely introduction. Tom did say I had a triad. I have Tourette's, and it comes with a triad, OCD, ADD, anxiety, and now I have a fourth problem. I'm delusional. I think I'm a comedian. So actually I am a comedian, and Saturday night at Beaver Valley I'll be doing a presentation. It has some bad words, but this one doesn't, because I am the founder and executive director of No Magic Bullet. I just want to tell you that I have my assistant Vanna White, actually Franny Bowman, who will be helping me. And some of you know me as Sunset Bob. Some of you know me as Fly Fishing Bob. Some of you know me as Crazy Bob. Some of you know me as Baker Bob. And now that I'm 7 years old, I have purpose and authenticity, and I am No Magic Bullet Bob. So, next slide, please. This presentation was called What's in Your Toolbox? An honest discussion about mental health. That picture of me, I did have somebody call me up and say, wow, you really cleaned up nice. Do you want to go out on a date? I said that was from when I was taking headshots and doing commercials, but I could still go out on a date with you if you wanted to, but I'm kind of busy talking to people at PROBUS. But this presentation is called What's in Your Toolbox? So, we received charitable status on September 22nd. And what we did is we had to submit our mission. And our mission is to educate members of the Canadian public about the importance of personal mental health awareness, how to destigmatize and understand misconceptions surrounding mental health, and how they can enhance their own mental health and that of their communities by using techniques and methods that supplement traditional medical interventions, including using lived experiences and nature-based wellness programs as educational methods, and engaging with non-traditional medical educators and practitioners and knowledgeable peer volunteers. Trust me, it's not easy to get taxable status from the CRA. You've got to put lots of words in there. But I think the key here is we're not here to get rid of traditional medical interventions like psychiatry, CBT, DBT, but we are here to talk about lived experience and nature-based wellness programs and non-traditional programs. So as a charity, we have a board of directors. Our chair is Mark Bernick. Treasurer is Steve Pickoff. Rob Talk, who lives in Halifax, is our secretary, and he's been on my podcast. He used to work at the Distress Center in Toronto, taking 911 calls. Andy Blackwell, who is from this area as well, is a runner, and he's been on my podcast, and he uses running as a tool. It's called Wind Behind My Back. Dr. Pat Rockman, who also lives up here, is a physician and an educator, and is the founder of the Center for Mindfulness Studies. Greg Bandler has a son who has learning disabilities and has been involved with a number of different areas. And Rob Fawcett, who you all know, is involved as a community connection here in the area. But the key to what we have going on is we also have an advisory panel. And these are non-traditional therapists. We have a psychotherapist. We have somebody that deals with collaborative aging, which because this is PROBUS, might be a little bit relevant. We have Catherine Smart, who ran the Parkinson's organization. We have an RMT, John Nesbitt. Julie Mitchell, who is now on the podcast for this month, runs Beamlight Therapy, Beamlight Studios in Thornbury, and she is a health coach and an integrative nutritionist. We have Dan Fotopoulos, who is involved with men's group yoga and as well as a certified performance neuroscience coach. Julie Starr, who is a women's coach. Mark Collings, who deals with addiction. Nicole Ripley, who's a holistic nutritionist. And Andy Baird, who's a holistic acupuncture. And these people all are accessible. Their bios are on the website, and they're all accessible if you want to reach out to them and find out a little bit about what their view is on mental health. So our educational objectives were the advancement of education in the area of mental health. Hence, we're having this little educational seminar to provide local resources of subject matter experts that can offer potential treatment or advisory support. And that's our objective. So how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by running these kind of educational seminars. We're not going to call them series because everybody wants to see if the first one is successful. So we're going to call them community conversations. And I'm very honored to be the first speaker of 2026. And you people are my first educational talk since I received my charitable status on September 22nd. But the follow-up will be a workshop that you'll all be invited to, which will be the training and dealing with industry experts on a one-to-one basis. And we have a podcast called What's in Your Toolbox. We're in our 5th season, and these are all, again, accessible on the website. The key is we've raised donations. So far, in the last 2 months, we raised $25,000. And what we're doing is we're providing these free of charge to the community so that they can benefit from the knowledge that we have gained. So what's my history? Well, I think I got the name Crazy Bob. I think it was, my nickname's Crazy Wildman. We don't know if it's a nickname or a diagnosis. But, I started the Mogul Mania with a little off-color words, but that's because I have Tourette's. What can you do? I owned a paging company, which was pre-cellular, and lived all over the world. I lived in Mexico, and I lived in Germany. I lived in Holland. I had an apartment in Paris. I lived in London, and I ended up in China, believe it or not. And during that time, I was hospitalized a number of times. My father was a doctor, and my entire family are doctors, and they said, "You have the flu." I had nervous breakdowns, but nobody wanted to even qualify, even doctors, that I had nervous breakdowns. But I came back, lived in Priceville. I lived across from this lady's son, and everything was going well until I crashed and I couldn't get out of bed for 5 years. So what did they suggest? I go back to Toronto because there was no treatment up here. I had a psychotherapist from Collingwood. I can tell you one of the lessons learned is no therapist is better than a bad therapist. But she wanted to send me to Homewood for $30,000 for 6 weeks. But Pat Rockman stepped in and she sent me back to Toronto. And I found a psychiatrist that knew about Tourette's. He was a drug pusher. He pushed me on all the pines. But at least I was in Toronto. And then I got introduced to the Mood Disorder Association of Ontario, and they had a course called Laughing Like Crazy. Well, I thought that was a great course for me because I could learn to be a comedian. Little did I know that it was group therapy. You had to check in, you had to check out, and clearly what happened was I saw where I was in the continuum. I was very functional compared to the people that were on ODSP or couldn't get there because, they had bed bugs. So it was a very good place for me to land. And during that, I had to do a set, and I met a young lady named Angela, and she had a book called Different Than the Other Kids. And it was a book about her children and how they were different and strategies how to deal with that. And also, I had a very good friend. His name was Luke Sklar, and he was a very dynamic, incredible, good businessman, good husband, good father, but he had terrible depression, and he had all the means, and he tried his hardest. He went to Boston. He had psychiatrists. I did a CBT book. Does everybody know what CBT is? Cognitive Behavior Therapy. I did a book. It took me a year to do it. He did it in an afternoon. He just wanted to get better. So when he passed, took his life, he actually took his life, which is important. He was in the psychiatric ward at Sunnybrook, and he had a house coat on with a tie, and he hung himself with the tie. So now they don't use ties. So we can learn from people that have mental health. So I decided to launch a program called No Magic Bullet, and I got a phone call from a colleague of mine that I went to high school with. He lived in Red Deer, and he had just finished a documentary on hermaphrodites. He said, you know, I'd really like to do a documentary on you. I go, that's quite a leap of faith. But we did a documentary. We raised a little bit of money. And when we aired it, somebody said, wow, you really are a pretty good public speaker, and you really do good stuff. Could we collaborate? And I said, absolutely. I have a podcast. I didn't. And they said, well, what's it called? I said, what's in your toolbox? They said, okay, well, you know, you can join our podcast. So that was the first year. And it was actually done with a group called Living Jewishly, because I had a friend that was a rabbi, and I went to all of the foundations at the hospitals. And they loved my idea, but when I had to get to the gatekeeper, which was the psychiatrist, he said, you're not a doctor. You know nothing about mental health. So he facilitated it. My first year was with Living Jewishly, and then people would call me up and go, well, I'm not Jewish, so, like, you know, I don't think I can benefit from your podcast. I said, you don't have to be Jewish to have mental health. You just have to be Jewish to want to be able to please everybody. But hence was born my podcast, and I'm just going into my 5th season. I traveled across country doing comedy, stand-up comedy. I was in Red Deer, I was in Kelowna, I was in Ottawa, I was in Kingston, I was in Toronto, I was up here, and it was really about destigmatizing mental health, using humor to tell people that mental health is something that you can talk about. And then I decided 3 years ago to get charitable status, and that was something that was really quite a challenge, but on September 22nd, we were granted it. Now, I'm glad that we're here, because I was in this room a little while ago. One of my advisors, my legal advisor, is Stephen Griggs, and Stephen is also the chairman of the Escarpment Corridor Alliance. And he's a fantastic guy, and they're going to use the Talisman property that was purchased by Bruce Trail for health and wellness. So on August 28, 2024, the Southern Georgian Bay Community Health Center, their initials are SGBCHC, HAP, is pleased to announce the successful completion of its Green Prescription Pilot Project, an initiative designed to enhance health and well-being by prescribing time in nature, funded by the Collingwood General and Marine Hospital Foundation. And the key word there is prescribing, where I would go and try to get help, and they said, you don't have anything, you don't know anything because you're not a doctor. Now we have people prescribing such things as nature-based wellness. Also, the arts can help cure mental health woes. Imagine if art programs were considered part of the national strategy to combat mental illness and loneliness. Sound too costly and abstract? What if we told you that this innovative approach has reduced doctor's appointments by as much as 40% in the UK? Now imagine the savings to our health system and the new opportunities for our current underfunded cultural sector if some art programs were linked to our healthcare providers, highlighting the true value of the arts in our communities and to mental health. This relatively new concept is known as social prescribing, and has been embraced in the United Kingdom and is gradually catching on in North America. This innovative approach allows doctors and medical professionals to prescribe participation in social, cultural, or nature activities as an alternative or complement to pharmaceutical drugs and other therapeutic interventions. Rather than asking patients, what's the matter with you, medical professionals might inquire, what matters to you? The answer could connect their patients and cultural programs, offering the chance to develop creative skills, a sense of self-worth, and deeper ties. So, what's in your toolbox? I'm just going to, for the next 20 minutes or so, and we will have a Q&A afterwards, and whoever asks the best questions, I have a couple of door prizes for you. Because I am Fly Fishing Bob as well. And so you might walk away with some Fly Fishing Bob swag. But what's in your toolbox? So in season 1, we started off with, they call it fishing, not catching, which was with my rabbi friend, Yossi Saperman. And at the end of it, his message was, man, you are a hobbied individual. I mean, we all ski, we all play pickleball, we all bike, we all do all these physical activities, but God forbid something happens, you have an injury, or you can't do that anymore. What are you going to do to take your time? So you have to be hobbied. And that isn't something that all of a sudden you just say, oh, I think I need to be hobbied. You have to be hobbied. Need a lift, you'll be impressed. My friend's son, who has a learning disability, started lifting weights. Well, he went to Abu Dhabi and he became the gold medalist, the world champion, and it created positive reinforcement for him, and that was his tool. Water girl, she was from up at Beaver Valley. She used to sup, stand-up paddleboard. She would teach yoga, and it was the water and that therapy that was her tool. Different than the other kids we've talked about. The videographer, who was the guy that did my video, he's been dry since he was 18 years old, and he's actually an AA sponsor, and that was what that was about. Dance, dance, dance. I had a friend, she had to come for dinner every night with her parents, and all they did was fight, and when she got in the car, all they did was fight. So what did she do? She escaped to the dance studio, and today she still dance whenever she needs a tool to manage her mental health. The girl from Irish Lake, everybody know where Irish Lake is, right? Well, she belonged to Beaver Valley. She was on the snowboard team, and she was a perfectionist, and she went to university, and she crashed, and you'll listen to her, but her most important system is everybody's got to have a support system. I have a BAST, Bob's Amazing Support Team. Tom has a TASK, Tom's Amazing Support Team. Franny has me. No, I'm just kidding. She has her own support team. But we do support each other because she's also a comedian. But her message was, if you're going to be a support person for somebody, you better take it seriously because people rely on it. My friend, mindfulness, we're going to talk about mindfulness, but this is something that I've practiced ever since I was sick. It took 7 years for it to become my friend. I hated it until I was sitting by the Beaver River and I did a guided meditation, and it said, just take your thoughts, throw them in the river, walk, let them pass by, but once they pass by, let them go. And conceptually, that was fantastic because it was all right to have bad thoughts, but it was all right to get rid of them too. A younger brother from another mother, my friend was a homeless person. He's now a professor in New Brunswick on homelessness, but he had all kinds of challenges. And one of the best upcoming skiers at Beaver Valley, Paul Richardson, he was a racer. He was a budding star. He had a bad boss. His boss triggered his anxiety to the point that he had to check himself into Homewood because it was going to take his life. And now he's part of my BAST and I'm part of his BAST. So if you go on to season 2, these are just examples of tools. Where do I find all these people? I could probably find somebody in this room that should be on my podcast, but I have to tell them a little bit about me before they're going to tell me about them, because they're not going to come up and say, hi, guess what? I got anxiety. But if I tell them, look, I got Tourette's, I think it's all right. You got to make it your friend. They go, you know what, I think I have it too. And I said, well, would you like to be on my podcast? Oh, no. Well, eventually they call me and they say, you know what, I think I'm ready. And when they're ready, it's good therapy for them. And the message behind our No Magic Bullet is if we can help one person, then we've done our job. So for you, and I see a lot of friendly faces here, for you that know me, my brother, Steve Coven, is a professional jazz musician. He has a Master's of Education from York, even though my mother used to have to take him for remedial reading in grade 6 because he couldn't read. He still can't read, to tell you the truth, but he knows how to do music. But the power of music is very powerful. He actually teaches at Baycrest, and he actually teaches a number of courses. And, you know, what I'm suggesting is that at a later date, these are all on my website, and there's tons of them, but I could help you. California Kid, does anyone remember Doug Wilson from Beaver Valley? Doug Wilson was the FMH, and he had a son, Craig Wilson, who moved to California, and Craig had a child that had issues and was in the California system and could not find anybody to help him. So he talks about that. Brainable is all about using your brain. It's run by Lynn Poslins. It's a fantastic organization. It's basically women's brain health, but it's strategies. Similarity, my friend of mine had ADHD as a kid in high school. She was told, you're never going to amount to anything. Well, she did amount to a lot, and a lot of us who were told that we couldn't be successful because of ADHD or because of Tourette's or because we were restless, managed to survive. Come on over to Hawaii is a life coach, a woman's life coach in Toronto, which talks a little bit about strategies for people that are getting divorced, that have health issues. My super awesome life, Jane Enright belonged to Beaver Valley for a little while. She wore a pink ski suit with pink lipsticks, and she had a horrific situation, but she wrote a book, and she was on my podcast. The artist, her name's Judy Singer. She's a lovely woman, very accomplished artist, but she had cancer, and her strategy was to ride a motorcycle, and she couldn't ride a motorcycle anymore because she couldn't lift her bike up. She had a big hog, as they call it. And she had to have a strategy. She had to be hobby. She had to replace it. But the most fantastic one that I did was a survivor from Irish Lake. This is a gentleman named Nate Leipziger. And Nate Leipziger is a Holocaust survivor, lives on Irish Lake, was one of the first members of Beaver Valley, runs March of the Living, where he takes people to the camps, and also just started the Holocaust Museum. So why is it called problem solving? Well, Nate had dyslexia as a kid. When he was thrown into the camps with his father, because the rest of his family disappeared, he was a problem solver. He knew how to walk just the right speed, because if you walk too fast, they take you for hard labor, and if you walk too slow, they put you in the gas chamber. And Nate ended up still talking, and if you want to listen to his episode, it's not about the Holocaust, it's not about the Shoah, it's not a bad conversation, it's about if you're a problem solver, then you can solve a lot of your own problem. The next guy called us gifted. He had dyslexia, and it's interesting, dyslexia, Joe Biden didn't have great politics, but he had a stutter, and he accomplished managing that. So you have to have tremendous respect for people that have challenges and are able to use them to solve problems. And of course, collaborative aging is about when you are widowed or where you have to move, what tools do you use? And these isn't government assistance. These are mental tools, things that you need to do. Then we go into season 3, and I went to Cuba fly fishing, and I met this guy, nice guy, and the first day he stayed out, and I said, look, I got Imodium, because Cuba, anybody's been to Cuba, right? Food isn't great. And he said, no, I'm all right. Anyways, we spent time together, found out that he had PTSD because he was in the Vietnam War and Agent Orange, and he was suffering from prostate cancer. What was his tool? Fly fishing, fly tying. It's a very moving podcast. People Gotta Move. That's about health and wellness at Beaver Valley and about using yoga and movement to manage your anxieties. Magic Hands. Well, we had a gentleman named Adrian Grice who was one of the members at Beaver Valley. He was the chiropractor to the chiropractors. His specialty was hard to do cases. What happened to Adrian? He goes to Europe. He's the senior champion of tennis. He comes back, plays with his grandkids in the backyard. They have a little mini bike. He hits the gas instead of the brake, falls back, quadriplegic. So if you listen to him, so is a quadriplegic. He's going to motivate you to explain to you how, because he was a problem solver, he can survive every day. Oh my God, I'm having fun. Living to thrive. My girlfriend, unfortunately, just passed away on August the 25th of cancer. But during her journey, we met a coach named Catherine White who has stage 4 cancer. And she talks about the tools that you have to survive stage 4 cancer. These podcasts are 30 minutes in length. There's a transcript with them. Maybe you don't listen to podcasts. If you don't listen to podcasts, you'll be able to contact me and I'll direct you to one of the ones that you might be interested in so you don't have to scroll through all of them. But she's fantastic. Ancient wisdom for modern times. A friend of mine, she got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She immediately went to this guy named Justin Nagu who used Ming Dynasty. His family were healers from the Ming Dynasty. And whether it was acupuncture, whether it was other holistic things that they use in China, that was her way, and she's still surviving. ABC of Distress is the secretary, Robert Talk, who worked at the Distress Center, had lots of interactions with people that were going to take their lives and learned how to talk them down, and he uses that as tools in his own life. Belladonna. She had to have bariatric surgery. I said, would you like to be on my toolbox, on my podcast? She says, well, I don't have any mental health issues. I said, oh, okay, well. She said, well, I had to take a course for a year before they did the surgery on me, a mental health course. I said, oh, okay. And I can't stop going to the fridge. Oh, okay, and I'm very depressed. I said, I hate to tell you, I'm not a doctor, but I think you have mental health issues. So she's on there talking about the tools that she uses before and after so that she could deal with her eating disorders. Would you rather be right or happy? Well, this is a gentleman named Chris Officer whose family belonged to Beaver Valley. Chris has tremendous addiction issues, has survived it, he's done well, but he still has the issue that he's a very angry person. And by going to AA, they taught him, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? So it sounds like a very natural kind of thing for people to do, but the reality is that you need somebody, you need a coach, you need a quarterback, you need somebody that's been there before to say, hey, Chris, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? So season 4, very interesting. There was an article in the paper and it said, what spotting a bat taught a kid with ADHD? Canadian Ventures' new book details how you can get beyond distraction and chase your dreams. Well, this was a guy from MIT, Harvard. He is a PhD. He's a fantastic guy. He wrote this book. His name's Jeffrey Karp. And I drove down to Toronto and went to the Toronto University Library. Never been there before. And I stood up and asked him a question, and I said, look, have you ever dealt with anybody with Tourette's? He says, no, I actually haven't. Well, his story is his 7-year-old self, a scrappy boy who was restless and distracted, unfocused on schoolwork, and unable to figure out why or what to do about ADHD and other diagnoses of learning differences would come later. At that time, I should have been discovering the world around me through a child's inquisitive eyes and unlimited potential. I felt like an alien, a human anomaly. I was confused, frustrated, and demoralized. I took an exhausting amount of effort to narrow my focus so that I could actually think. But in the second grade, my teacher labeled me a lost cause. Well, this guy's a PhD. He has a book called Lit, and in it, he talks about techniques that he has, including pinch yourself. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Pinch yourself. Get your act together. So he's on my podcast, and I would suggest his book. So not everybody's from Beaver Valley. Some people are from Harvard. Empowering special needs parenting. She's from Beaver Valley. That's Marley's mother. Does everybody know Leslie Nicholson? Marley is the nonverbal person at Beaver Valley, and she talks about special needs parenting. And actually, on February the 21st, we're having another session at Beaver Valley where Leslie's going to be my guest. Living Better with Parkinson's, that's Kathy Smart, talks about Parkinson's in the area and what they do to help tools. It's physical exercise, but it's also mindfulness. The Journey, that's about a teacher from Grey Highlands that is a nomad. He doesn't really have a home. He just sort of keeps moving from place to place, trying to outrun his anxieties. Don't Rip the Felt Addiction. This is a guy that belongs to Beaver Valley. All of a sudden, he ends up at Homewood, and he is an alcoholic. And I said, I'm going to help him, and he lies to me. So I said, look, if you lie to me, I can't help you because I got a lot of other people that call me. But about 6 or 12 months later, he called me back, and his name is John Sim, and it's probably the most honest discussion of mental health, which is what this is all about. Purpose, how, what, and why. You got to have purpose. You got to have authenticity. I assume PROBUS, there's an age category. I guess you can't be 18 and belong to PROBUS. But we all need purpose. We all need authenticity. And that in itself is a tool to try to help you put one foot in front of the other. The truth about OCD. This is a young lady that belonged to Beaver Valley, lives in Markdale. She loves to talk about OCD. Her name's Jacqueline Coburn, and we wanted to have her here as a speaker, but unfortunately she's still teaching school, so she can't do it. But she'll be speaking because the next event after this one is with, and I can't remember the initials, Southeast Grey Mental Health. It's a place in Markdale, and they're another community partner of mine. I also have the Thornbury Library as a community partner that facilitates these kind of conversations, because believe it or not, learning about mental health is interesting. One Laugh Can Conquer Gloom. It's all about comedy. I have a friend, Daniel Shaw. He was elected by Chorus as the funniest comedian in Canada. Well, that's because he got everybody to vote for him. But what was his trigger? He had a kid. He was doing till fine, then he had a kid, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, what's going to happen with this kid? I ran the New York Marathon in 1989. Why? I had a kid, and so that was the only way I could get away is I started running 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Then finally I was running like 2.5 hours, and made me anxious. I was anxious before that, but it really did make me anxious. Resilience. That's a story about a guy who had a child and he can't get access to her. He hasn't seen her since he was 2 years old. She was 2 years old. His wife, this is the family courts and whatever, but it's an interesting conversation on what tools he uses in order to deal with that. If we can help one person, there's somebody somewhere not too far away that has the same problem with children or a child that they can't see. Recently, when a daughter becomes a mother, my friend's mother in her 80s got depression. And all of a sudden, well, what are we going to do? So they had to move her closer, and my friend, the daughter, became the mother. And it was interesting because it was music, which was the connector. Frank, they used to play Frank Sinatra, but it's a real, honest, good discussion. And from out of nowhere was a cousin of mine. This is just November, and from out of nowhere, she got depressed. Well, she went through psychiatrists and medications and whatever, and 7 months later, she hooked herself up, checked herself into a hospital, and somebody magically found her the potion that she could get some sleep. And now she talks about from out of nowhere. All my relatives didn't know anything about this. They listen to this thing, they go, oh my God, that's a common theme. People would say, for the people that know me here, you have depression? You're the most positive, crazy, inappropriate human being on earth. But the Robin Williams, it's the people that are out there with the positive energy that behind closed door becomes negative energy. And I can tell you that positive energy that becomes negative energy is very difficult. I can see some people with their shaking. And of course, The December one is called Still Life Retreat. This is a great story. So my girlfriend passes away. People call me up and say, do you want to go to Markdale and play golf? No. I don't want to play golf with anybody at Markdale. I'm grieving. How about we go to Hearts? No, I hate Hearts. $24.95 for a hamburger and a side of Malpeque oysters. They said, come on, come to Hearts. So I come to Hearts and they meet me and they say, oh, we got to go into the back. It's too noisy here. So we go into the back, and of course, there's a surprise birthday party for me. I didn't think I had any friends at that point, and there was 8 people there that would have taken a bullet from me, including Rocky here. Anyways, I cried through the whole thing, but as we went out, I see this couple in the corner, and it looks like they've got 2 glasses of red wine. It looks like they're fighting. So I go up to them and say, why are you fighting? They go, we are fighting. How did you know? I said, I don't know. One of my podcasts said I was an empath. But I said, my girlfriend just died, so, the world should be full of love. They said, well, we're actually partners in grief. His wife had died, and her daughter had died in her arms, 23-year-old daughter, like 6 months before. So she said, I give her a card. I say, why don't you take a fly fishing lesson? Might make you happy. She sends me an email. She says, oh my God, I can't believe that you came over and saw us. This is fantastic. I want you to be part of our life. Anyways, Still Life Retreat is this woman, and you got to listen to it. It's about grief and how she deals with grief. And we try to add levity to it. I don't know how you add levity to grief, but if you take a listen to this one, she's quite articulate. She was in the Army. She was a weightlifter. She's fantastic. And she has a business called Still Life Retreat, which does, used to be a Buddhist retreat, and then it was a Christian camp. And she does holistic healing. So that's a sample. Very quickly, it's a lot of information, but the point is, where do I find 48 people that have mental health? At the Kimberley General Store. At the top of the rock. In Flesherton. It's pretty easy to find people around here because we live in Grey County. So what's coming up? My podcast in January is about light therapy. It's Julie Mitchell, and she talks a little bit about light therapy and how you can use it for a mood enhancement. It's very interesting. In February, I have somebody, I had a meeting with them. One thing you guys don't know about Tourette's is a mimicking disease. Like if you see somebody twitching or sucking their thumb, you want to do it. Anyways, I have a meeting with this guy, and it's driving me crazy. He's twitching like hell. I said, look, I can't have a meeting with you. He said, well, look, anyways, he's on February when it's called To Twitch or Not to Twitch. We'll have an osteopath. We have a friend of mine, Podium of Life, somebody on ADHD. We're moving, with the donations that we received, we're moving to YouTube so that we can get more exposure. I've hired a social media person, and we're just cooking. So you're going to find out that if you go to my website, there's 2 things you can do. Subscribe, which is very easy to do, and then you'll get my newsletter that Tom talked about. If you want, you can subscribe to the podcast. We won't solicit you at all for donations, but there is the ability to go on there, and if you so feel, there's tax receipts, and you can get a donation. So, what are the lessons learned? Well, that nature-based therapies work, and we don't have to go very far. We can just go across the street and hike the Bruce Trail, hike Kalapur. I live on Lake Eugenia on a place called Sunset Point. They call it Sunset Point because I look at the false horizon created at Lake Eugenia. When the sun goes down, it keeps going down and down and down because on the top of those rockets, where they pump the water out and then pump them down, is 820 feet. Niagara Falls is only 410 feet. So the sun keeps going down and down and down. I take sunsets. I'm on Instagram. I don't know if you guys are on Instagram, but you can see them every week in my newsletter. And what's key to them, everybody loves the sunset. There's nobody goes, well, there's a couple of people go, they all look the same. I go, well, you're probably about more as interesting as having diarrhea. Oh, I forgot it's being taped. In other words, they don't have much creativity. Lived experience is key. There's a John Butler who was writing an article for this event, and unfortunately, the publication that he wrote for went broke or closed. But John Butler told me, look, I used to work at 999 Queen Street, which is the old KMH, and he had all kinds of talks about, and lived experience was not accepted back then. And then he did some other stuff. Lived experience was never accepted, but today, 2026, lived experience and what I do and what you guys are listening to is important. You got to have the 3 Ps. I was hiking in my managed forest, and I take pictures from my sunset, and I lost my phone. So, and I live alone, so it's not like I could call anybody. But because I have the 3 Ps, persistence, practice, and patience, I went back and I found it. So the 3 Ps can be used to find a phone, can be used if you're anxious, can be used if you're depressed. And this isn't just for you guys. I mean, everybody is touched by mental health, whether it's their own nuclear family, whether it's their friends, whether it's a colleague at work. Everybody can help. A good lesson, you cannot outrun your anxieties. When I was in China, the first thing I looked for was the H for hospital. I mean, I can't even watch The Good Doctor. I get 5 new diseases. But you can't outrun your anxieties. I was making a lot of money then, except I had to live in China. I tried to outrun my anxieties, moved to Priceville. Guess what? They found me. So it's all about this fight or flight and about trying to outrun your anxieties. You can't. You got to deal with them. Understanding your triggers. I mean, we talked a lot about, whether it's a bad boss, whether it's having a kid, whether it's, grief. You got to understand what your triggers are. And if you understand what your triggers are, and how do you understand that? Well, there's professionals out there. Some of these people that are on my advisory committee can help you identify them. Make anxiety your friend. You only have so much effort. Don't waste all your time trying to get rid of the bloody thing. Just make it your friend and accept it for what it is and live with it. And the most important one is be kind to yourself. Because if you just beat yourself up and say that poor me, you're not getting anywhere. So, no magic bullet. Next slide there, Vanna. No magic bullet. That's called a QR code. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you should be, because that's how you have to read menus now in restaurants. If you take a picture, that will send you to my website. I have cards. You have a brochure. If you go to my website, at a minimum, subscribe. You'll get the weekly newsletter. You won't be asked to buy anything. You won't be asked to donate anything. And you'll probably like it. I have over 1,000 readers that get it every Monday. And the message is really simple. Start your week off with positive thoughts and simple moments. My mantra is, if we can help one person, we have done our job. So listen, everybody, thank you very much. I hope that I hit a nerve somewhere. And we now have 10 minutes for Q&A, and you can ask questions. And Vanna White and I are going to decide who has the best questions, and we're going to give away a couple of some fly fishing swag. But most important, before that, Tom, most important, one of the things we would like to do is measure the success of this seminar. And we'd like to know, did you like it? Did you learn anything? Did it meet your expectations? Is there anything that we could do that's better? So, Franny, beautiful woman. Can't help myself. will be, and if you can give us your email, you'd get a link from SurveyMonkey, and it would help us improve this. So, everybody, let's see about anybody has any questions? Tom, of course you have questions, because you are the best.
Bob, thank you for sharing what you've done. It's quite obvious you have been through a life of many different challenges. What therapy or what helped you the most with any one of the challenges that you faced?
Mindfulness. You know, I meditate once a day, a guided meditation. I don't even have to sleep in the afternoon anymore. I just sit down and do mindfulness. But it takes a lot of work to be able to manage your thoughts. And I would recommend it highly. I have an advisor. We'll be having workshops on mindfulness, and it doesn't cost you anything. And you have all the tools. Everybody can do it. They just have to have the 3 Ps. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Do you think today's stress in society is bringing out all mental health aspects, or it's always been there and just nobody talks about it?
Well, I think that if you've had a life, you have mental health triggers. And it's just a matter of being able to deal with them. Now, be kind to yourself. I mean, there's nothing you can do about the fact that Iran, and there's nothing we can do about Gaza. There's nothing we can do about Trump, because we've got to start with our own little selves. If we can't get along at PROBUS, if we can't get along at Kimberley, in Kimberley, if we can't get along at Beaver Valley, if we can't get along with our spouses and our thing, those are the things that we can be most constructive on working on. And I think those components have been there throughout your life. And so I don't think, or else just unsubscribe to CNN and Fox. But, you read stuff about social media and about kids and screen time and stuff. Yeah, it clearly has increased, and COVID, of course, increased everything. But we're PROBUS, we'll be dead in 30 years. Got to throw a little bit of comedy in there, Any other questions? Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Well, today it really shows that it is okay to talk about it, and I think that is the biggest thing that is going on now. Like before, it would be shoved away, and you were in a home somewhere and out of the way from your neighbors, so they wouldn't know. They didn't really maybe even have a name for it, how to call you or what it would be, but psychiatrist was the bad word, and you really didn't want to have on your list when you're going for a new job or something like that.
Right.
And now it sounds like it's coming out of the woodwork, you might say, perhaps, or away from under blankets and the hiding. And maybe that will definitely help the people to open up and say to themselves, yeah, I'll better look for some help, and this is okay.
So that doesn't sound like a question. Sounds like a statement, which is fine. You're probably going to get a hat. But listen, I will tell you that if anybody knows my background, my father was a doctor, my mother was a nurse. I had 5 uncles that were doctors, 5 aunts that were nurses. On my father's service at the Mount Sinai Hospital, 5 of the residents were all my relatives. I had a grandmother from Sydney, Nova Scotia, because I'm a maritimer. And who else is a maritimer here?
I just like it.
You get a hat. You get a hat for sure. But my grandmother twitched. Like, she twitched her brains out, and they just thought she was nervous. I had bad behavior till I got encephalitis when I was in Edmonton, and then I got put in the hospital, and they didn't have fancy MRIs, they didn't have fancy CAT scans, so they had to wait till they did a CAT scan, a spinal tap, because they weren't sure if you had a brain tumor or you had something else. And the psychiatrist came in and he said, so tell me, is there anything that bothers you? I said, yeah, I twitch. He goes, well, do you drive fast? I go, yeah. He goes, do you have lots of tickets? Yeah. Do you swear a lot? Yeah. Did you get kicked out of school? Yeah. I think you might have Tourette's. So the key is that, you know, and it's an energy issue. I got this great energy, but it can be bad energy too. But the energy issue is that, I forgot what I was going to say. That's because I have two. That's because I have. Oh yeah, ADHD and all these issues that people have. They just got all this energy, but now they're labeling them. And if you can figure out that it's energy and harness it, Tom wrote a little piece that I had to correct because he said I had a hard time, you know, finding career advancements because of my bad behavior. Well, it was my energy. It was the ability to get on an airplane, live in all these places, come home, take care of my kids, do all those things that help me. So energy is a good thing as long as you know how to harness it. And talking about it, of course, is key, and that's why I really appreciate this attendance, and I really appreciate that you guys have listened to my What's in Your Toolbox. Yes, sir.
Based on your life's experiences and your interaction with all your people, what's your view on drugs to cope?
Well, listen, you know, they just numb it. They give you a chance to maybe just be a little bit calmer, but the peens, like, you know, you start off on 25 milligrams, and before you know it, 3 months later, you're on 300 milligrams, you're a zombie, you put on 400 pounds, and you go to the psychiatrist and you say, you know, I really don't think this stuff's working. Well, that's not my opinion, but I wouldn't get off it if I was you. Well, I want off it. Okay, so now it's another 3 weeks before you, and then they put you on something else, and before you know it, a year's gone by, and you've been on these drugs. So remember, I said at the beginning, we're not trying to replace conventional psychiatry, but it has to be something other than that. And that was my experience. And if you listen to the podcast, that was the experience with my cousins. You know, at the end of it, I said to her, it only took you 7 months to find the right solution. Some people never find it. So, you know, it's hard work, and hopefully that answers your question. Yes?
I don't know if you'll have the answer, but you asked the question. If you're caught up in the cycle, so you've mentioned Homewood, so you're caught up in the Homewood cycle, the psychiatrist cycle, the medication cycle. When I listen to this, it sounds fascinating to build your toolbox, listening to what other people have done. But what's the one step somebody can take?
I think the one step is every day add somebody to your support system. Somebody that's either been through it, somebody that cares for you honestly, or somebody that knows somebody that's a professional. There's lots of Bob Covens out there. You know, I'm not unique. There's lots of fans. But the point is that they see a professional therapist, psychotherapist, talk therapist, or even an osteopath. They would see tons of us, and it's not that there's not that many permutations. And they would say, you know what? I know somebody else, and you should try this. And so you got to have this support system, you know, and you got to build it. I had a 60th birthday. I just started going out with my girlfriend. She said, can I help you with your birthday party? So I have like 250 friends. So they all showed up, and she said, you know, we got to serve coffee and dessert. And I said, my friends don't eat coffee and dessert. They just drink rye. They're all from Beaver Valley. And then she said, well, you know, why are you having a cash bar? You're so cheap. I go, are you crazy? These people could drink me under the table. But the reality is that I make an effort. Relationships require nourishing. So I'm sure that if you have an issue, if you can just continually add somebody to your support system. But remember what the girl from Irish Lake said. If you're going to be somebody's support system, you got to take it seriously. you know, you got to make yourself available. So I think the more support you have, the better it is. And it'd be great if it was your mother and father. In my case, it was my mother and father. It was my sister. I wasn't married, so it was my girlfriend, because if I was married, I'd still be depressed. Okay? Great. So listen, Fran is going to be at the desk. As you leave, if you want to be part of the survey, it's only going to be about 5 questions. Give us your email. It's anonymous, and we'll be able to use that to enhance it. So, Fran, come on up here. Let's figure out who do you think we should... This is just so I can hug her. Who do you think? Okay. Okay, so, drum roll. Mrs. Penny, come on up here and get a Fly Fishing Bob hat, and you know, maybe you can take a picture of me and Mrs. Penny, because these two are both Dutch. I love Dutch food. So there's a Fly Fishing Bob hat for you. Thank you for asking your question. Here, let me have a picture with this. Oh my. And our next, I forgot what you said, come back. I know the answer. Tom, come on up here, because we loved your question, and we loved all the work that you put in here. So there's a Fly Fishing Bob hat for you.
Excellent.
Okay.
I will wear that with great pride. And mental health.
Everybody, thank you so much for attending. We went a little bit over, not too much, and I think you guys did great work. And please give us your name. And other than that, there's not much I can say. And by the way, take my card. If you want to filter through some of the podcasts that you think might be interesting, and you don't want to listen to all of them, you can get in touch with me, and I will send you one that is relevant. They're only 30 minutes. If you don't listen to podcasts, then you don't listen to podcasts. So thank you very much.
I get the opportunity to thank Bob for coming here and sharing all that he has done. I think that his experience has helped each one of us, and his life journey has been quite unique and is now focused on helping others. So I'm going to suggest sign up for his email. It's good for your health. At least you're going to get to see a sunset. And he has great recipes on it each week as well. And in the meantime, follow through to his website. As he says, he's not here to solicit funds from you. He's here to try and help people. So support him so he can do others the need and the help that they need. Thank you, Bob.